Alright, so after all this preparation, we're now ready to start building our website with Elementor. And that's why now I want to show you the Elementor page builder, and we'll take a look at some of its basic features, how it works, so that you get a general sense of how you will be working with Elementor. We're logged into our website right here, so I'm in the back end of my dashboard, and now we'll go to pages, and you see WordPress already generated these pages automatically. We'll just create a new page, and then we'll call this our home page. This will be the first page that we actually use. Okay, so we'll just enter in our title right here, and then we'll click on publish, click again, and we can hide this. And now this page, as you see down here, has been published to our website. So if we go back and we refresh the page, you'll see it appears right here. All right, now we'll click on edit again. What we want to do right now is we want to edit our page with Elementor. That's why we want to click up here on this button, and now it will load and it will take us into the Elementor page builder. And this is pretty much how it looks like. This is the setting that you will be getting familiar with, and where you will probably be spending most of your time when you're creating websites with Elementor. Alright, so now let me explain a bit about the interface of Elementor. On the left side right here, this is the Elementor sidebar, which is pretty much where all of the Elementor features actually sit. And then here on the right is the canvas, and this is pretty much what your page will look like to other visitors. So you can directly see how it will look like while you're working on it. And this is one of the big advantages of these kind of what you see is what you get editors like Elementor, because you directly get feedback and visual feedback how things change on your website. Basically, you can create the so-called sections. If we click on this button, so it says add new section. If I click on this, I get this pop-up menu to create different styles of section. Usually I'll just create the blank section right here, but you can obviously also choose others. This will be split into 2 columns, this will be split into 3 columns, and so on. If we add this to the page, you see this little section appears up here, and you see this little box in the middle, which is where we can drag in content later. So this is where we could add elements like a text or an image to the screen. Basically, you first have these different sections, then inside of these sections you have different columns, and then in these columns you can have inner sections, or you could even have just the basic content. And I'll show you how this works right now. So if we click on this little button up here again, we'll get taken back to the different styles, the different widgets that we have available to us. So we could just drag a text into this little section, and as you see, if I hover over the space, this little blue line appears, indicating that I could drag this content into this space. So if I let go of my mouse key, then we see the text gets dropped into this little box in the website canvas, indicating that it will appear in this place on the website as well. Now we can also move them around as well. So we could say we create another section, and let's say we want to add a button to this, and maybe we might want to add a bit of text in the middle. So we'll add in the text editor on top. You see, I can drag it below the button, or I could drag it above the button. And now you see we have these 2 different sections, but maybe now I want the button to be in the top section, so I can just drag it up there and drag it in and drop it into this top section without any problems. You can also create layouts with several columns, as we saw earlier as well, and it's really easy. If you just if you have a section already, for example, and click on this edit column button, or right click on it, you see this duplicate button, which would allow it to be duplicated. And if we click on that, then we see this column gets duplicated within that section, and now we have 2 of these columns next to each other. I could remove this from here. Let's say delete, and maybe I want the text to be next to an image, for example. I don't have an image right now, but you see this then would appear next to the text. Now you might be wondering, how do I actually edit how the different elements look? And that's pretty easy, because the way you can edit these elements is the same for pretty much all of them. They might have some different features, but basically there's always the same layout. So for example, if we click on the button, you see we have this, if I hover over the place where the button actually is, we get this blue box again, and then I can click on this little edit button in the corner. And if I click on that, you see the side menu here changes to the editing options. So now instead of like the general options, I see just the editing options for that button. Usually you will have these 3 different tabs. So you'll have the content tab, the style tab, and the advanced tab. The content tab is where you can add or change the content of the element that you're working on. So for example, in this case, I could change the text of the button. So I could say, instead of click here, I could say buy now, if I wanted to do that. And I could also add in a link. So if someone clicks on the button and I want him to go to a certain place, then I can add that link in here. You also have the option to change the alignment of the button. So right now it's aligned to the left. I could also say align it to the center. So it will be centered on the page. I could say align it to the right. Or I could even say justify it, so it would take up the full width, like this. And I think you get the general idea of this content tab. So let's move on to styles. This is actually where you change the actual style of the content. So for example, styling would be the color, or it would be the font style. You could go into typography right here, for example, and then click on this button. And we'll choose a different font. So maybe we want to use Georgia as a font, and you see it changes the font style right here as well. We could also go in and say we want to change the text color, which might look a bit weird, but you see it turns green now. And all these things. You can also change like the border radius, which is kind of how round the corners are. So if I bump that up a bit, you see if we close this for a minute, how it's now rounded instead of like just this edgy button. These are all kinds of things that you could edit using the style tab. Okay, I'll click on it again. All right, and lastly we have the advanced tab, which covers a bit more of the technical features. What we'll be using a lot will be margin and padding, because these are just extremely important concepts and extremely important tools to space out your content in a good way and to make it look good on mobile devices as well. So we'll be using that a lot. But there's also other options that aren't as relevant for you right now, like adding your own CSS classes and so on. This is something that you don't need if you want to use Elementor. I actually often don't use them as well, so you don't need to have knowledge of all these advanced features. Sometimes they can be helpful, but for most of the time they aren't necessary to use. What's important about the interface is every time you do something on your page, you add a new block of content, you change some of the styling or so on. Each of these times I want you to click on this update button, because this is what actually saves your styles to the website. This will then reflect in how your website looks. If you don't save it, then your website will not change and all your progress will be lost. So keep that in mind. One more thing is this little bar down here, which has some additional tools from Elementor, which we'll also be using later. So for example, we have this preview button, which will just create a new preview of our site. So this will be how the site actually looks. Obviously it looks terrible right now because I just demonstrated some stuff with these blocks. We'll be turning this into a nice homepage later. And this is just a little preview. We also have the responsive mode. This will become really important later as well, because it allows you to preview your page in these different sizes, so you can optimize them for the mobile views. And things like history are also there, so your history of your changes. You can like go back to previous versions of your website if you change something about it and then you realize that you don't like it, then you can easily go back. And lastly, we'll have something like the navigator as well, something we'll look into later, and the settings, which also will come in later. Alright, so now let's actually save this page, and then we will go on to actually turning this into a homepage that's actually nice to look at. And that doesn't look as weird as it looks right now. What I might be doing as well is, you see we have this header bar and this footer bar. These are right now generated by the theme that we have, but we will actually change this to be generated by Elementor, and we'll design our own footer and header. So what I will do right now is, if I go into settings, to page layout, I'll actually go to Elementor canvas. Which means that we won't be able to see the header and footer again, so we can just work on the page content for now, because we'll talk about and we'll cover the header and footer later. Alright, so update, and then we're going to go back to our WordPress dashboard. You can do this by just clicking on this button right here. So we'll just go to the dashboard, and we'll click on this button to take us back to the dashboard. We'll go to settings, we'll go to writing, we're going to reading actually. And now this is the option that I talked about earlier. So now we want this homepage that we created to actually become our homepage. Because if you see, right now, if we go to, just turn this up and go back to, let's go back to our actual root homepage, you see the homepage, where we want it to be, so directly on this URL, isn't here. And this is because WordPress needs to know which page should actually be the homepage, and by default it will be just a random generated page. So we'll go in here and we'll click on aesthetic page, and then we'll go to homepage and we'll select our homepage, save changes. And now if we go back here and we'll refresh, we see that this is actually the page that we created. It looks ugly, but we're going to turn it into something beautiful.